Hey, what's up, guys? It's Johnny, and welcome to episode 17 of the Travel Like a Boss podcast. Today we have James Ferrer. Is that how you say your name?
Ferrer, but it's okay.
Okay, cool. So I wanted to talk to you about two things. One is about how you manage your online business. So James sells bicycle wheels online.
Yes.
And more importantly, and I want to spend a big chunk of this podcast talking about the gym we both trained at, which is a MMA gym, and it's called Phuket Top Team.
Yes, Phuket Top Team. Very good gym.
Yeah, and you do a lot of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu there.
Yes. I train Jiu-Jitsu there under the professor there, a Brazilian guy, Olavo Abreu. It's great.
Yeah, it's cool. So I was really excited to talk about that because that was a big part of my life about 4 years ago. Right. And I was one of the first members there before they actually opened. So before we get into all the cool stuff about how you can afford to basically train jiu-jitsu full-time, this paradise island, while making money online, let's talk a little bit about the actual gym itself. What is it like now? Because it was really different when I first went.
So Phuket Top Team, or sometimes we call it PTT, it's in the south part of Phuket. I think it's been open for a little over 2 years, so it's a rather new gym. It's in an area of Phuket which focuses on martial arts and fitness training, and it's really a booming area. It's a destination for sure for people that want to train to be professional athletes and professional fighters.
It's crazy that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is now in Thailand. I mean, 3 years ago, nobody had a gi. Not a single person had a kimono to roll, to do jiu-jitsu in. It was Muay Thai has always been around, and that was popular. But why did jiu-jitsu become such a big thing here?
Yeah, that's a funny topic because I hear that all the time. I tell people, "Oh yeah, I'm going to Thailand to train jiu-jitsu," and they say, "What? You're not training Muay Thai in Thailand? I thought Brazil is the place to train jiu-jitsu."
So for the people that don't know what Brazilian jiu-jitsu is, if you ever watch UFC, which is cage fighting, anytime they're on the ground wrestling and they're trying to choke each other out, they're trying to break someone's arm to get them to submit, they're most likely doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And because I think it's the only martial art that actually works when you're on the ground, right?
Right. It's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Jiu-Jitsu is ground fighting. So in a fight, a real fight, usually the people fighting will fall down on the ground. And when that happens, the dynamic of what would work and what wouldn't work to win the fight completely change. So the techniques that work for fighting on the ground are called jiu-jitsu. Okay. And how did it originate? How did it go from Japan to Brazil? Did you ever hear about that story? Yes. It's an interesting history because jiu-jitsu is basically comes from judo.
Okay.
Judo is a martial art that involves throwing the opponent, and jiu-jitsu essentially comes from that and are the techniques for fighting on the ground. About 50, 60 years ago, maybe a little bit more, jiu-jitsu made its way to Brazil, to the Gracie family, through some certain circumstances. And the Gracie family and Elio Gracie transformed the Japanese jiu-jitsu into what we practice today, which we call Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And not very many people practice traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu anymore.
Okay. It's such a cool history of the sport that, basically it was, and I think the reason why it got so popular because it actually worked.
Yeah, it's very effective, and it's a surprisingly non-violent martial art. There's very few injuries. There's no punching or kicking, so that risk of injury is eliminated.
But I think the cool thing about it is because you're not punching or kicking each other, you can spar 100% and really try to kill the other person, as in choke them to death, put them in a lock where normally you would break their arm or their leg. And as soon as they give you the signal to stop, they submit through just tapping, or they can verbally say tap, you stop. And there's no injury after that. The next day you can go to work, to your white collar job, and with no bruises, no black eyes, and you're fine.
Definitely. A big part of jiu-jitsu is a sport. Having it as a sport or as a hobby. For myself, it's my hobby. It's my main activity that I do for my personal fitness. I don't really train jiu-jitsu thinking like I'm improving myself as a weapon for fighting on the street. But as a sport, what I often hear from my friends that I introduce to jiu-jitsu is that they're surprised that they're able to go to their 100% effort level, which is difficult in other sports. So let's say, for example, weightlifting. If you want to lift a heavy weight, you kind of need to psych yourself up. You maybe take a few deep breaths and you go for it. And you're either motivated or less motivated.
Well, I mean, you still warm up in jiu-jitsu. It's not like you jump straight into to rolling. But, I mean, definitely, let's say boxing or Muay Thai, if I were to spar a friend 100%, and we would both get injured.
Right.
We would both have black eyes. We'd both get cut up, and we wouldn't be able to show our face, to the girls we were dating or to work the next day, for sure.
Yeah. And in jiu-jitsu, you can come away with relatively no injuries. I mean, it's very rare for somebody to get injured in training.
So it's a great workout. It's a great hobby to pick up because it's something that really focuses dedication. It's a martial art that actually works. And I firmly believe that every man, woman, and child should learn the basics of jiu-jitsu. So this is kind of hard to demonstrate over a podcast, but I want you guys to imagine somebody's choking you from the back. And this is one of the worst case scenarios of someone trying a mugger or somebody, a bad guy trying to grab you, right? And you can be, it doesn't matter if you're a small girl or if you're a big guy. If someone just grabs you from the back and chokes you and you don't know what to do, you're getting choked out. But there's a super simple technique in jiu-jitsu that prevents you from blacking out or ever getting choked out. And all it is tucking your chin in.
Yeah. And
you'll be surprised how many people in the world don't know that.
An interesting story, one of the only times that I got into a fight was I was in the subway in Tokyo, and it was late in the evening, and I heard something behind me, and there was an altercation between a man and a woman, and this man had a woman pushed up against the wall, and he was about to strike her. And because I trained jiu-jitsu, I came up behind the guy and did exactly what you just said. I choked him from the back. It was very, very easy. He didn't know that defense, and I was surprised. I was thinking to myself, like, wow, this is happening. I'm in a fight. I'm using jiu-jitsu, and it's so easy. He has no idea what to do, but I know what to do. And so I applied a choke onto him, and instantly the situation was in my control.
Yeah, and completely diffused. Because there's nothing he could do if he doesn't, he can't breathe.
He wasn't injured. There was no risk that I was going to hurt him too much. And jiu-jitsu saved the day.
Yeah. And that's the really cool thing is, if I ever get into a bar fight or street fight, I'd be very reluctant to punch someone or kick someone, elbow someone in the face because I don't want the repercussions of it. I don't want the cops to come and say, and they're like, oh, this guy, smashed this guy's face in. But if I had just choked the guy, I could just say I was restraining him from punching this other person. And it's, I don't know about the legal implications, but if I was a cop and I saw this guy has no bruises, I don't have a bloody, this guy doesn't have a bloody fist from punching a guy, and the situation is diffused and, the fight stopped, it's fine. Like, just let them go. And I think that's one of the great things about learning jiu-jitsu as a self-defense. And the point you made at first was really good is if someone has zero jiu-jitsu experience and you've trained for even a month, you are 2,000 times better than him.
Yeah, you will win. There's no way. If you don't know jiu-jitsu and you go up against someone that does, you just won't win.
Yeah, and you could literally be a 5'2", 140-pound girl. You could be a 110-pound girl, and if you choke a guy that has never practiced jiu-jitsu, and you get your arm under his chin, around his neck, and he doesn't know how to defend it, you will choke him out.
Yep.
The thing is, if both people have learned it, and both people have practiced, then it becomes different. Then there's a long learning curve.
Well, one of the important things about the popularity of jiu-jitsu and the reason why a lot of people live this jiu-jitsu lifestyle is that there's this element of fighting, but there's a completely different element that I think is actually more attractive to the average person. And what happens when you dedicate your life to anything, say it's a sport, there's all these different associated changes that happen in your life just automatically. Say, for example, if you were really into surfing, well, you're in the ocean every day and you might see some fish, and there's these other things that happen. Well, with jiu-jitsu, the associated changes that happen in your life are so positive, and they really reach into every area of friendship, nutrition, your daily activities and structure, and really form a positive, well-rounded lifestyle.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that as well. I think it's because jiu-jitsu is actually very hard on the body. I know that, the argument is, you're not getting bruises or punched in the face. You're not really getting big injuries all the time. So it's relatively a safe sport. But I know for a fact that the people that train a lot, they get little injuries all the time. You get sore, you always have a sore back. You always have something, all right?
Every now and then you got some kind of big scrape or a little black eye from some kind of accident that happens in the training. Nothing serious, but it's definitely very physically demanding activity.
I would say the biggest problems is for people that do it a lot for over years. A lot of them have joint problems or knee problems. Have you found that?
I have always one injury that's bothering me more than the others, and then I forget about the others. So it changes from the different joints, and I've had almost every joint be bothering me. Right now it's in my neck because I was sparring and I didn't want to tap to my opponent because just I thought that I didn't need to, and my neck got a little bit tweaked, and it's
and
not
it sucks.
A big deal.
What percentage of people who do jiu-jitsu regularly take ibuprofen?
Oh, I wouldn't know, but I know that everybody has some kind of nagging overuse injury when they do an activity like jiu-jitsu so much, because what the people out there might not realize is that the average practitioner of jiu-jitsu will train every day. And
because you're passionate, right? Because you love it.
Passion, it's a great thing, I train one time a day, pretty much every day in the morning at 10:30 a.m. So the structure of my life, I couldn't imagine it to be any better than I wake up and at 10:30 a.m. I see all my friends, and we train together for an hour and a half, and then we go on about our day.
Yeah, and it's a great exercise. It's a great way to really... I really think it's a great way to keep modest and humble, because no matter how good you are, there's always someone better than you.
Oh, yeah. Like the 12-year-old kid that can completely dominate me is like, this light little kid, but he knows the techniques, and that's what matters. So,
I'm a pretty big guy. I'm about 205 pounds right now. And, in relatively good shape. I'm okay at other sports. I'm okay at Muay Thai. I'm okay at some other sports. But I'm a beginner at Jiu-Jitsu. And even though I enjoy it as a sport, I've never really dedicated, the time and effort to go into it. So, but once in a while, I would say every couple of months, I would go to a class or a roll, and I would just get dominated by guys literally half my size. I mean, like, how much do you weigh, James?
I'm in between 60 and 65 kilograms, so that's maybe 130 pounds.
Okay, so you're quite a bit lighter than me.
Yeah, when we often have... first off, people out there might not understand that your body weight matters in a fight, and especially in jiu-jitsu, because a heavier person can essentially just lay on top of a lighter person on the ground, and that will cause the bottom person to be restrained. So if you're heavier, you have an advantage. And that's why in jiu-jitsu and mixed martial arts competitions, there are weight classes.
But at the same time, I've rolled with plenty of guys exactly your weight. And if you guys want to see a photo of James next to me, go to episode 17, Travel Like a Boss podcast in the show notes. And you can see if you just saw us in the street, you'd be like, all right, well, this big bald dude will win the fight. But on the mat, guarantee there's no way I can submit you. And in the beginning, because I do a little bit of wrestling, because I'm bigger and stronger, I might be able to just hang for a while, but I guarantee at some point you're going to submit me, and there's nothing I can do about it. And this has been the case with every single blue belt I've rolled with. Because how long have you been a blue belt, James?
I've been training jiu-jitsu now maybe 4 years, maybe more, and I've been a blue belt for about almost 2 years.
So you're an experienced blue belt, high level. I'm a not so experienced white belt.
So for the people out there that don't know what white belt and blue belt means, basically when somebody is practicing jiu-jitsu, they wear a special type of uniform, you could call it. We call it a gi, and it's basically like a jacket and pants made out of cotton. And this helps with certain things, and there's a belt.
Yeah. I think most people, can imagine or have seen some kind of like kung fu or karate gi with the belts.
Right.
So you're a black belt. The jiu-jitsu is different. Okay, so in kung fu and karate, you don't need to be wearing that outfit. You can do the exact same exercise, and you can fight in shorts and t-shirt. I mean, you could like literally wear anything in karate, and you don't need a belt. You don't need anything. Now, in jiu-jitsu, it's the only martial art, aside from maybe judo, where you actually use there's actually a purpose of the gi, right?
Right.
And what is the purpose of it?
The gi, being such a strong material, can provide a grip or a handle to grab onto your opponent. And having that stronger grip and different places to grab your opponent can provide you with the ability to do different techniques. So by wearing the gi, you're able to practice more of jiu-jitsu. There's more options, there's more things to do, and your understanding of jiu-jitsu becomes deeper.
So how many of these gis, so when you're back in Phuket Top Team, how many gis do you own?
Well, since I'm a traveler, it's difficult for me because they're a bit heavy.
Yeah.
So I have 2. Okay. I keep it to a minimum. I would like to have more, but they're tough to travel with. Mm-hmm. And they get a bit sweaty, so it's good to have more than one.
Yeah, and especially because they take a long time to dry because they're so thick.
Right.
And you can't use a karate gi because you'll instantly rip it, right?
And there's a form of jiu-jitsu that we call no gi. So this is without wearing this gi, just wearing like surfing board shorts and a rash guard. So people do jiu-jitsu without wearing the gi, but because it changes a lot of things about what type of techniques you can do, it's almost considered like a subdivision of the sport. So there's kind of 2 categories, gi and no gi.
And the gi helps, keep the sweat off you so you're not slippery. So you can't just pull your arm out of a technique. You actually have to do the correct maneuver for it. So, and I think the gi also kind of, it takes the place of what someone would wear in a street fight. So if someone is wearing a jacket with a collar and a shirt and pants that you can normally grab onto, that's what the gi is for.
Yes.
So it does have a purpose. So before, I want to ask you about life living at Phuket Top Team, the training, the coaches, the cost of living, all that stuff. But let's first talk a little bit about your bicycle wheel business.
Yes.
Because that allows you to basically live out here, do your passion full time, and make a living.
Yes. Yes.
So how did you get into it?
I came from a background in design, and then I had a web design company, and I read the 4-Hour Work Week and realized like, oh wow, that's what I need to do. And I was so very close, and that's what I wanted to do, and that led me to transition from my service-based business, making websites, to a product-based business, selling bicycle wheels. And I sell them mostly via e-commerce.
So your customers, are they mainly in the US or are they worldwide?
They're worldwide. Yeah, just we've sold in now just about 20 countries. Mm-hmm. They're all over the place. And that's just a great thing that's possible these days.
That's really cool. And it's not like you're stuck to one location and you have every time you get an order you have to walk down to the post office. You can have it fulfilled is basically automatically, right?
Yeah, it wasn't always like that for me. There was that time where I had a bunch of boxes in my apartment and I was filling out the address every day, and then my apartment was like completely taken over by boxes, and I slowly moved towards having a fulfillment center. Unfortunately, when I was starting my business, the people around me and the climate for doing this type of business wasn't the same as it is now. I guess I've made more friends like you, Johnny, and more people that are doing it. So I didn't really have role models and people around me that were doing it the right way. So there was a lot of learning and a lot of improving. And now it's my business is in some type of good shape. Of course, there will be improvements in the future.
I still remember, I think it was about 8 years ago, right at, like, I think it was while I was in university, I met a guy who's a friend of a friend who had an eBay business where he sold cell phone accessories. And I went to his house. So he had rented a big house, 3-bedroom house in Irvine. And one of the rooms was nothing but inventory. It was just boxes of cell phone chargers and earpieces. And I don't even think cases were popular at the time, because this is before the iPhone came out. And I thought it was the coolest thing in the world that he had 2 employees, both college students, that sat at this computer all day, printing out shipping labels, packaging the Nokia charger, walking down to the post office, sending it out.
Yeah, it's cool.
And I thought, it was fun. I was like, man, that is the dream. That is the coolest thing in the world. So I got my first e-commerce business was selling cologne through the internet.
Nice.
And I was so excited every time I would package one up and handwrite the label. I didn't even have a printer. And it was fun in the beginning, and then it gets a pain in the butt.
Yeah, then the novelty wears off, and putting that box into the post isn't as satisfying as it once was.
Even with my e-commerce store, I don't ship anything out. I have everything drop shipped. But I still have to forward the email to my dealer to send out. And literally all I do is I forward it and say, I have a pleasantry like, hey, this is a new order. Please send this. And I would just copy and paste the address and the order. And that's it. That's literally all I do. And I still get a little bit... Now, in the beginning, it was so fun to do. I loved it. Yeah. And now I'm still thinking, maybe I should automate this part of it, because it's a bit more tedious.
Yeah. Well, and you have to realize that automation and these types of improvements in going to a professional fulfillment center, this is better for the customer.
Yeah.
It reduces the risk of mistakes. It increases the speed. It increases professionalism. So while there is an element that we want to make things more smooth and more efficient for ourselves personally, while doing so, it definitely improves the experience for the customer. So this is nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah, it's true. Because, all right, so think of it this way. If you order something online at 2 a.m., if you have to wait for a live person like myself or even an employee to open that email and forward it to get sent out, that, and let's say you order it on a Friday night or something, the earliest that we're going to get to it is Monday morning. And by then, we'll probably have other emails to attend to first. So your order might not even be submitted until, let's say, Monday afternoon, right? And that's very normal. That's for almost every company out there, except for companies that automate the fulfillment, where as soon as you put in that order, no matter what time of the day it is, it automatically goes to the fulfillment company, which may work Saturdays, and some of them will work 24 hours a day, and your order gets shipped out much faster, and it's streamlined. So yeah, James is right. It's at the end of the day, it makes our life easier, but also makes the customer lives better.
What I like to do, I have my fulfillment automated, like you're saying, but I like to look at and confirm every order, because with automation, if everything is completely automated, there's some kind of space for mistakes. There's necessary error checking, and maybe something strange would happen and you don't have the error checking for that. And just a glance by a human that knows the full situation can prevent a lot of problems before they get started.
Yeah.
So what I have is I have all my fulfillment information is automated. When the order comes in, it goes right to the fulfillment center, and everything's prepared. But I do look at every order, review it. I review what's going to be sent out. I review everything, and incorporate knowledge of maybe previous communication with the customer and certain special requests, and then I confirm and it gets sent off.
Okay, so then everything's kind of done for you. All you have to do is do the final look over. Yes, this looks good. Send it out.
Yes, and often when I talk to people about automation, a lot of guys really just love automating. Just automate everything possible.
Well, I firmly believe the biggest problem with automation is once you automate, you can't scale and you can't grow. As you can spend your time scaling and growing other parts of your business, but as far as that specific customer, that specific part of it, you're kind of just hoping to do the least amount of work possible to maintain that. And that's honestly what I've been doing recently. The only reason why I manually fulfill my orders or I manually forward my emails still is, first, I don't get enough orders where it takes that much of my time. It's maybe a couple orders a day. On average, I'm happy to get 2 orders a day. Sometimes on a good day, we might get 5. But still, that doesn't take more than 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. And I would say the only downside to it is, let's say I want to disappear for 4 days to go camping or something with no internet. That makes it very difficult. At that point, it'd be nice to have an employee or have it fully automated. Mm-hmm. But for if your life is, if you're happy with your lifestyle be able to live on an island with internet and be able to spend every morning doing jiu-jitsu or whatever your passion is, but you still dedicate an hour every day, Monday through Friday, checking and fulfilling these orders, then you're fine. There's really no reason for you not to just look at it manually and be able to catch errors before it ships out, like as you said. So this business that you have, it basically pays for your cost of living, your hobby. I mean, how long did that take from implementation to really be able to make enough money online to fund this lifestyle?
I've been in business for myself now in different forms for maybe 7 years. So I've always been funding my lifestyle with my business. The big changes for me didn't come from increasing my personal salary from my company, but they came from improving my lifestyle at a reduced cost. So if you were, the classic, the balance, you can either make more money or do the same thing by spending less money. And actually you should do both of those and you can increase your quality of life drastically. That's why we are in areas like Thailand where that's very much possible.
Where were you living before Thailand?
I was living in Tokyo.
Okay.
So
cost of living is much higher there, right?
Cost of living is very high, and that limited my ability to do the things that are fulfilling to me as a man.
Okay. Like, what are some examples of that?
Now, my lifestyle, well, I feel very happy about my lifestyle now, and I focus a lot on achieving my lifestyle goals. So I have a balance of work and play that is very sustainable. I train jiu-jitsu almost every day. I surf a lot. I go into the ocean, travel whenever and wherever I like. I'm married. I have a wife. I have 2 young baby twin boys, identical twin boys, 5 months old. Very so cool. I like to play with them in the morning. They wake up, they see me, Papa, and we play and we learn. And that, for example, being able to play with my boys in the morning, that doesn't actually cost me anything.
But what is that worth?
It's worth a lot, and it wouldn't be possible if I didn't arrange my business and personal lifestyle specifically to allow that.
I know a lot of people in the U.S. who have these, multi-million-dollar corporations that are CEO of a company that can't even afford to buy time to spend with their family. And being able to basically have time for that, have time. You can play with your kids every day. And by being able to do that every day, really whenever you want, that is worth more than making an extra $500,000 a year, even for a lot of people.
Right. You need money to spend and time to spend it.
Yeah.
And then also all the best things in life are free.
It really is true. Where did you live before Tokyo? Like, where'd you grow up?
Outside of Washington, D.C., in the suburbs of Virginia. And then I moved to Tokyo. I lived in Japan and Tokyo maybe 7 years.
Okay.
So I started my business career in Japan.
Okay. And you came to Thailand for the lifestyle and for jiu-jitsu. Well, actually, you came here for jiu-jitsu.
I saw my my friend. I saw his photo on Facebook, and I know that he's a jiu-jitsu professor, and we were training together. And he was away from our training in Tokyo, and then I see his photo of him near these crystal blue waters. I said, "Where is that?" And my friend tells me, "Oh yeah, I'm in Thailand, in Phuket." Well, what are you doing there? He said, "Oh, I'm teaching a jiu-jitsu seminar." Wow, they have jiu-jitsu training there? Yeah. I need to go check it out. And I came here thinking that I would just maybe spend a short amount of time, but I realized that there's a very good lifestyle possible here, and my goal for my lifestyle is to live worldwide. But Thailand's a great place, so I love to spend my time here. You know, it's warm, and it's just an area that it checks all the boxes on my list of things that make me happy each day.
Yeah, I mean, good weather, peaceful life, great food, friendly people, no stress, access to whatever you really want. I mean, and it wasn't the case 5 years ago. And this is a big misconception a lot of people have, especially Americans, of what life is like in Thailand. I probably still have friends who think I live in some hut somewhere with no electricity. I mean, we're in a really nice office building with a nice conference room.
Yeah.
We can have, if we wanted to, we can go out and have New Zealand lamb, some nice steaks tonight. We can go get dark chocolate from Switzerland. You can get basically whatever you want. You can get world-class jiu-jitsu out here. We can ice skate. I mean,
you can do anything.
Yeah, really. Like, there's really nothing in the U.S. that we don't have here anymore. And 5 years ago, it was a lot harder. I actually remember 5 years ago, it was hard to find things like dark chocolate. It was hard to find. Like, if you wanted to do jiu-jitsu with a gi 5 years ago, it didn't exist.
Not possible.
I remember when I first went to Phuket Top Team, it was I think it was 2 weeks before the grand opening. So there was, I think, one or two other guys there, and but I was basically, I started training there before it opened, and I was one of the first people to stay in those economy rooms, those budget rooms.
Yes.
And it was fun. It was really fun. And I would say the only downside to it was there wasn't enough people there. It was, so the classes were really small, which was nice for one-on-one, kind of training. The couple of jiu-jitsu classes I did, it was me, the professor at the time, and it was like one other student, and that was it. And the Muay Thai classes were small, but I was really into Muay Thai at the time, so it was fine. But all the equipment was brand new. It had a nice indoor mat, air conditioned. How's equipment now? How's it held up? Because I know it's been a few years.
The facilities are great there at Phuket Top Team. The entire area around Phuket Top Team is so focused on training for martial arts and fitness that new facilities are opening up all the time. It's an amazing economic boom town right now, which is great. It's also very cheap there still. So Phuket Top Team is great. Probably the best place to train. In my opinion, it's the best place to train. But there's just all these new places to train, like CrossFit and general strength and training and different things. It's just a great area.
Yeah, it's I don't know, is there a name for that street yet? People call it the Tiger Muay Thai Street.
Yeah.
That's what, we have to give credit to them because they were the original.
Tiger Muay Thai is the original, the biggest. It's Soi Thai in Chalong, in Phuket. It doesn't really have like a good name. It needs one, for sure.
Well, you can call it the MMA Street, I guess.
Someday there will be a name for it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Only now, like, the news is getting out that this street exists, and it's a very special place for all the listeners out there. It's a unique place. And when people go to this area, 100% everyone wants to come back.
Oh yeah, I've never met anyone to train there that didn't come back. My first trip out there was 2009. I went to Tiger Muay Thai for 10 days, I think. And to me, it was I had to plan it. I had to plan it for 3 months. You know, I kept emailing them and saying, "Hey, do you have accommodation on site? What should I eat? Do you guys have food? Do you have a meal plan I could sign up for? Like, what are my classes going to be?" It was such a big deal to me. And then once I got there, I realized, you know what? This is actually pretty easy. Like,
it's easy.
Once you're here, it's really easy. So then I had gone back again for 6 months to train. And then I had, I was like, okay, I enjoyed my time, but it's time to move on. So I started traveling around the rest of Thailand doing other things. But when Phuket Top Team opened, I was like, you know what? Let me go back again and let me check out this Phuket and see how it's changed. And it's changed so much since then. I bet you if I go back right now, I won't recognize half of it.
Oh yeah, your mind would be blown. Even myself, I will go down streets and I will be lost, and I will think, wow, I used to know where this is, but all the old buildings are gone, and now there's like these new apartments and monthly mansions and restaurants.
But that's good because it was really lacking accommodation for a while. The only places to really stay on that street was either the limited amount of rooms at the gym itself. There was a couple kind of more high-end resorts that charged quite a bit. And then there was Tony's place, a couple of apartments, and that was it. And I remember them saying, oh yeah, if you want a cheaper place to stay, you can stay at the YMCA, 15 or 20 minutes away. And I was like, no, there's no way I want to stay there. So that's really good that they're building it up for people training. And if you've ever watched The Ultimate Fighter and you've dreamed of living that lifestyle where you live in one area, one house with other people dedicating their lives to training MMA, training Jiu-Jitsu, and that's all they want to do is, eat, sleep, and train, that is the place to go. And it doesn't matter if you go to Phuket Top Team or you go to Tiger Muay Thai, that street, that area is going to be, you're going to meet everybody. I mean, it's going to be crazy. All right. I wrote a lot about it in my blog. You have to go to the archives. It's myfightcamp.com. And I wrote, daily lifestyle updates, made a lot of videos of what it was like training at both gyms. And that's how the book 12 Weeks in Thailand stemmed. It was,
nice.
I think till this day, if you Google Tiger Muay Thai versus Phuket Top Team, I'm still one of the top 3 results of my blog.
Nice.
And it's just because, and it was only because in the beginning people kept asking me. So because I was one of the few people who had trained at both. Now I'm glad this rivalry kind of died down a lot. Yeah. Now they realize there's room for both. Right. I would say 100% if you want to do jiu-jitsu with a gi, go to Phuket Top Team. Right,
yeah, that's really the only option for jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And it's such a very good situation there. The professor, Olavo Abreu, is a third-degree black belt, Brazilian guy, very good guy, great training. I would say that the class sizes, the training sizes have definitely increased since your time there. And since my my time beginning there, I think when I started, it was around maybe 3 or 4 guys training each time, and now we'll have between 30 and 50 every time.
That is crazy. I'm sure they're just gonna break it down. My suggestion would be to have a dedicated white belt class, and have a separate mixed class, and that'll alleviate it right away. So Boyd, if you listen to that.
Yeah, Boyd, I second that. That's a good idea.
So speaking of Boyd, really cool guy. So I met him when he was first starting the gym and got to know him as a guy, and he started because he was just so passionate about MMA and Jiu-Jitsu and, just all the fighting sports that he wanted to create his vision of the perfect gym. And in the beginning, there was a lot of tension about it because he had opened the gym on the same street as Tiger Muay Thai. But at the end of the day, I think it's actually better for customers and people wanting to go to train because now they have the option of both. And it builds that community on the street where it allows restaurants and, these hotels to open up to cater for people. And, so I'm really glad they're both around. I'm glad that they both, figured out what they're going to specialize in as well.
Yes.
So that's a very cool thing. So it's more expensive to train jiu-jitsu out here in Thailand than it is in the U.S.
Yeah, that's a bit odd. and it's definitely the truth. It's more expensive than it was for me in Tokyo.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
So how much is monthly unlimited classes in the U.S., Tokyo, and then Thailand?
I don't know about the U.S. How much was it in the U.S.?
I think it's $120 a month for most places.
I think it was about $150 in Tokyo.
Okay.
And that's just for jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
And Phuket Top Team, I think it's somewhere near 300
$300 bucks a month. And at first I thought that was insane. You know, I'm like, why is it double the price in Thailand, where it's so much cheaper than it is in the U.S., where it's expensive. But people train 3 times as much here. I mean, in the U.S., most people do jiu-jitsu for a couple days a week. After work for 1 hour. And it's not even a full hour class.
Right.
Here, how the class is still an hour, or what are they?
I think it's an hour and a half.
Okay.
And you can train if you were a complete animal and you just trained everything. You could train, I think it's 7 times a day. You could train Muay Thai starting from 7 a.m. Next, you train Jiu-Jitsu. Maybe lunchtime, strength and conditioning, boxing, more Muay Thai, wrestling, more Jiu-Jitsu, no-gi Jiu-Jitsu. If you have enough physical power to do that, then respect.
So a big tip that I mentioned in the book, that if you want to save money, just sign up for like 10 classes at a time. Just pay for a 10 class pass. Even though you think that you're going to be this madman and train twice a day, 6 days a week, I guarantee you're not. Especially when you first arrive, because first you're not acclimatized to it. You're going to be so exhausted after each workout.
Right. You'll train hard for like 4 days, and then you'll have to take like another 4 days at least off, because you'll be like sick and your body will be hurt. And
you'll also want to do things like enjoy the beach. You want to go to Koh Phi Phi for these great island trips. You're going to do a lot of these things. However, if you can afford it, you've saved up for it, you budget for it, and you don't want to think about it, you just want to do unlimited class, then do it. I mean, most people end up doing the unlimited class just because it's easier to keep track of.
There's a lot of people that come to train for what they call a fight camp. So they're preparing for some kind of a fight that they have, be it a professional fight or some kind of serious amateur fight. And they'll train very hard, full time, for maybe 2 months, maybe even 3 months. So for that type of guy, this unlimited full-on training is perfect. For guys maybe more like you and I, Johnny, that want to go to the beach, and we implement training and these activities just as another part of our lifestyle. Train once a day. For me, training once a day in the morning at 10:30 a.m. just makes for a great day. It's
perfect. It really is perfect. I mean, I really don't think anyone needs to train twice a day unless you're preparing for a competition.
I do know that when I was living in Tokyo, training twice a day was the norm.
Yeah.
So the guys all would come in the morning, around 10, train, do whatever in the afternoon, and then come back again at 6. And certainly that is the way to improve twice as fast and train twice as much. But here in Thailand, maybe it's because of the climate or because of the level of the opponents, I personally could not physically train twice a day, even though I want to sometimes.
I feel like people here train harder as well, because in the US, people have jobs, they have these other obligations, so they show up. Let's say trainings every night from 7 to 8. Usually people are a little bit late. Class doesn't really start until 7:15. There's a little bit of a warm up. You train a little bit, and sometimes you don't even roll every day. I mean, a good school would roll every day at least, but it's less than an hour class, and nobody's really trying to kill each other because most people are just doing it as a hobby. While here, you're training with professional mixed martial art fighters. Yes. And they have nothing better to do. I mean, like literally,
that's what they're doing.
They live at the gym, they eat there, they sleep there. So they show up 15 minutes early to each class. They're already warmed up, and you just start going for an hour and a half, hard, every day. And that's why it's tougher, and that's why the training here is more intense. Speaking of which, they have a program called the this is 0 to hero, white belt to blue belt, jiu-jitsu training,
right,
in 3 months.
3 months. Get your blue belt in 3 months.
And I know that was a bit controversial in the beginning.
Definitely controversial,
but
I've seen the way that this program has been run. I've sparred with the guys that got their belts. I spar with the guys that didn't get their belts, even though they completed the 3-month program. And I personally am not in a position to say who should be a blue belt or not. I am a blue belt, and certainly.
But you took the long path. I mean, you trained for how long before you got your blue belt?
I trained for more than 2 years to get my blue belt.
Okay.
I don't know if that's a long path,
but it's different
of me or not.
But it's different for everyone. I mean, I've technically trained for 4 years, but because I never actually trained, I'm still a low-level white belt. And so before we even jump into this, the belt system in jiu-jitsu actually matters and it actually works.
Yes.
If you are a black belt in Taekwondo, there's a chance you're a 12-year-old kid that can't beat my sister in a street fight. You know, a good chance. Like I would put money on my sister. But if you're a black belt in jiu-jitsu, I guarantee this guy will mess you up.
So there's 5 belts in jiu-jitsu. Yeah. Starts from white, then blue, then purple, then brown, then black. And the common saying is that a blue belt in jiu-jitsu is like a black belt in anything else.
I really believe so. And I honestly believe that if at least, I would say a blue belt, any blue belt, but definitely anything higher, anyone that's purple or brown, I would put all my savings on them messing up anyone in the world. I don't care how strong or how good of a fighter someone else is.
It's true.
If they have that level of experience in jiu-jitsu and it's a fight that goes to the ground, I would put all my money on them no matter what, because it's legitimate. And that's what I really like about jiu-jitsu. It really restored my faith in martial arts. My entire life growing up, especially as an Asian guy, I felt really like almost sad that martial arts was all BS. Every karate, every kung fu, ninjutsu, Wing Chun, Taekwondo, and if you think that because your martial art is some obscure thing that that no one ever talks bad about, it's because no one's ever heard of it and it doesn't work. I'm sorry. But jiu-jitsu legitimately works. The belt system legitimately works. And I really, really, I think it's amazing. So the white belt to blue belt in 3 months is a huge undertaking. But what is actually involved? What do they need to do to get this blue belt?
I think the way that the situation is designed to work is that these guys aren't starting at zero. They're coming to Phuket Top Team to improve their jiu-jitsu and their mixed martial arts, which means that they have a background in jiu-jitsu already. So it's not starting from zero. And the requirement is that they train twice a day, every day, for 3 months. I think that's only 5 days a week. 5 days a week for 3 months. And maybe they can miss 3 training sessions. Total in 3 months.
So they can miss 1 class per month.
Right.
That's crazy. That's harder than high school.
So that's compressing a lot of training into a small amount of time. And when you also consider that these guys don't have their mental space taken up by things like work or their other friends that they had back in their hometown or whatever, they're completely focused on this. And a lot of them, the majority, really dedicate themselves. And there's maybe 2 sides to becoming a blue belt or increasing your belt in jiu-jitsu. One would be the technical aspect. Have you memorized and can you implement with reflex these specific techniques? And a technique would be used in some situation to gain an advantage or to do a defense against your opponent. So how much of this have you memorized and can implement? That's one important thing. But then there's a completely separate and possibly more important element, which is how much have you developed and how much has jiu-jitsu changed or taken hold in your life. That's very, very important. A lot of these guys come in And I don't mean any disrespect by saying this, they might be like punk kids. And then they train twice a day jiu-jitsu, 3 months. No, they become men with respect.
They really do.
For themselves and for others. That is worth recognition. And also, it's important to know that jiu-jitsu practitioner has that mindset versus a beginner who would have this wild punk mindset. Yeah. And they wear the blue belt so that in the training, I can look at them and I can know that they have a certain level of maturity in their mind and in their jiu-jitsu techniques, and that when we spar together, I can predict what our sparring will be like, and that's why we wear the belts.
Yeah, and it actually does. It really works. I mean, if I look at someone in their blue belt, I know they're going to be a certain level. If I see someone that's a purple, brown, or black, I know guaranteed that even if I'm mounting them and they're half my size, they can just throw me off easily. Like, there's nothing I can do about it. So I just took a look at the website, PhuketTopTeam.com, and their 3-month Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu white belt to blue belt IBJJF. What does that stand for?
International Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Federation.
Okay, certified boot camp, 28,000 baht for the 3 months. That's $933 US. So that's actually not that bad if to be guaranteed your belt as long as you actually pass these tests. And it's not guaranteed.
I see a lot of guys that come in and they do the 3 months and they don't get the blue belt. They get maybe 4 stripes on their white belt, which is kind of like an intermediate ranking before blue belt. That happens.
But it's cool that they have that, because if anyone's willing to dedicate 3 months of their life, 2 times a day, 5 days a week, and not miss any classes and learn this stuff, you know what? Big props to them. I think they deserve a belt. And I'm definitely in no position to give one out, but I do think it's a great marketing thing as well for PTT. And I'm glad they don't just give it out, like some internet testing things where you actually make these people put in the work. What I would recommend for people to do is come for that 3-month course, and at the end of it, if you get your blue belt or not, just keep training afterwards.
I think that's the key. That the mark of the blue belt, because there's so few belts, when you have the white, you could feel like you're at level 0, when in fact you're not. You've improved your jiu-jitsu to something more than 0, and there could be a risk for some people that if they stay for such a long time at white belt, that they might just stop.
Yeah.
And they feel like they've never achieved anything. They're still at 0, when in fact they're not. But it's very, very rare to see somebody get to blue belt in jiu-jitsu and not continue training for the rest of their life.
That's absolutely true. And that's why they had the belt system in Taekwondo and karate and that stuff, is to make you feel like you're advancing it and you're getting better. And unfortunately, all those martial arts, and I would say, I'm sure there's an exception to the rule, and don't think because I'm saying this that you're the exception to the rule and your gym is the best. Your dojo for karate probably still sucks. I'm sorry. But, it's majority of them, they use that belt system as a way for kids to get their parents to spend more money and to continue putting them through classes. While in jiu-jitsu, it's the one that's actually kind of legitimate, where they're not going to give you your blue belt just so you can pay for another year's class up front. But I almost guarantee they'll do that in a Taekwondo class. They're like, yeah, you don't pay for another year up front? Yeah, we'll test you for your next belt, no problem. So I want to kind of wrap this up a bit, but this has been really interesting. I feel bad now. I had my buddy Nick on episode, I think it was episode 10 of the podcast, and we talked about online business, and we didn't even talk about jiu-jitsu.
Oh no, because Nick, he's a black belt and he's all about that.
Yeah, and he's, not only is he a black belt, he was Roger Gracie's first black belt ever, and so he's a legitimate jiu-jitsu guy.
And his whole life is just dedicated to the max to jiu-jitsu.
So shout out to Nick. He's the owner of Jiu-Jitsu Brotherhood. But I think the reason why I'm more comfortable talking to you about jiu-jitsu is we're closer to levels. Because even though you've been doing it for so many years and you're blue belt, we can still talk about training at Top Team together. You know, kind of,
Yeah.
kind of getting through the
Agreed.
beginners hardships. While I don't like, if I talk to Nick about jiu-jitsu, it's like, I mean, he's a master and I'm a beginner. It's like I have no idea what to even ask him.
Yep, exactly. I mean, that's how it goes. That's another reason why we wear the belts. You're just talking about a verbal conversation here, but when you go to train, the conversation of jiu-jitsu, the physical conversation, would be similar. You and I would be closer, and we would signify that with our belts. And Nick, he's a black belt. He's another level. He's speaking the language more fluently than we can.
That's true. So if someone wanted to come out to Thailand for 3 months to do jiu-jitsu, what would you recommend they do, and what would you recommend they bring?
I would recommend that they get in touch with Tony from Tony's restaurant.
Okay.
This guy, he's like a local, I don't know if I would say celebrity, but he's a local businessman, and he has a restaurant, and he has bungalows, and he has motorbikes, and he has everything, and all his stuff is really, really cheap. So that's kind of like the go-to guy. If you want to get anything done, you should go talk to Tony. I don't know if you would be able to really get in touch with him from overseas. You'd have to try that out.
I would say show up. Have at least your first night's accommodation booked somewhere, and then go talk to him.
Yeah.
I would say the only downside to getting everything through Tony is you'll end up feeling like you owe him. He's almost kind of like the Tony Soprano of Phuket.
That's quite possible.
Yeah, and you start feeling obligated to get everything through him and eat at his restaurant every day. And if
that's dangerous. Don't do that.
Yeah, so if you end up, deciding, hey, let's try this restaurant across the street named Jaja, you're gonna feel like he's not gonna be happy. So I would say the only downside to getting everything through Tony is you'll feel so comfortable because he'll take care of everything for you and at a good price as well, and it's good food. Is that you'll feel you won't branch out, and there's a lot of local restaurants you can eat at.
Oh yeah.
A lot of other places you can go that you just end up not going because it'd be so comfortable to go through him all the time.
That's always a risk that you can get into an easy groove or a rut in a new place, and you only eat at one restaurant when you have hundreds of others.
I was eating at his place literally breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it was a little bit different also a couple of years ago because there wasn't that many other restaurants on the street, and now I know there's more variety. But it was one of the 5 restaurants. It was Mama's, Jaja's, and some other eliminations, and so we kind of just ate at his place all the time until if you eat anywhere for 2 months in a row, you don't want to try something else. And as soon as I did, and I started trying to get other people, my friends, to go to other places, he wasn't too happy with me. Just because you are taking business away from him, but it's definitely, if you're only there for a few weeks, it's a great place to get started. As far as jiu-jitsu gear, if someone's going for 3 months and let's say they're going to do this 3-month white belt to blue belt plan, what would you tell them to bring? Should they bring their own gis, or can they get it there?
If you have your gi, bring your gi. You can get some really good gis at Phuket Top Team. For sure, Phuket Top Team is the place to go for jiu-jitsu. So you can get everything you need there. And you just need your basic traveling gear, and everything is accessible.
I think it's a big misconception that you need to bring a lot of stuff. I know that aside from Top Team, I don't know if there's anywhere else to really buy gis in Thailand. So I would definitely recommend bringing your own, and especially because you might want to buy one PTT gi as a souvenir or train in, but you don't want 3 of them. And it's actually kind of cool to have like different brands and different styles that other people don't have, so it doesn't get mixed up when you're drying it, when you're washing it, things like that.
For sure.
As far as laundry service, do they have laundry service for gis out there?
They've got a bunch of different laundry services, and a lot of the bungalows have some laundry service, so that's not a big deal.
I personally don't care if you guys buy the book or not because it's not my main revenue stream anymore. But it has a really good information in there about the cost of living, what to pack, my reviews of the time I was at Tiger Muay Thai and Phuket Top Team, and just travel information like how to not get ripped off by taxis and things like that. So the book is 12weeksinthailand.com. And I guarantee you 1,000% that if you read the book before you make a trip out to Thailand, you will save more money than the $10 it's going to cost you to buy the book. If not, just shoot me an email. I'll give you $10 back. All right. So James, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and good luck out in back in Phuket and training jiu-jitsu. And I'll see you when you're a purple belt, right?
Oh, thank you.
All right, peace out, guys. Have a good one. Thank you for listening to the Travel Like a Boss podcast. If you want to hear more, including the bonus How to Choose the Perfect Niche episode, join our mailing list at travellikeabosspodcast.com. See you next week, and remember, if you want to travel like a boss, you need to be your own boss. So start your online business today and start living the lifestyle you've always dreamed of.